Good night, everyone. Welcome to arguably the most anticipated show of hashtag this just in. And for me to say that, you know it has to be a big one. Before we get into that, though, because it's a big one, I had my big friends. We got Jerm from Stuff About Sports, and also the one half of, oh my gosh, why am I struggling with words? JT and the Don. That is Jimmy Thompson himself, guys. Welcome to the show. We are expecting Steezy A. Smith, but you know the young guys like to be fashionably late. JT, Jerm, how's it going on?
Everything's good, brother. Everything's good. I had to come on here just to make sure you guys understood that I was right the entire time from round one. I have the hater blockers on because JT's here and now Steezy's here. So now I had to make sure that everything is straight and all the hate that you guys are gonna come for me with today is blocked and distributed correctly.
And speaking of which, we do have Steezy A. Smith off camera currently, but he's about to hop on. Guys, as Steezy makes his way onto set, woo! Yes, indeed, Jerm was correct. Golden State Warriors did indeed extend their dynasty. Fourth title in 8 years, fourth in 6 tries. So that means Stephen Curry now has 4 titles, 2 league MVPs, a bunch of all-star appearances, and finally that what seemed to be elusive finals MVP. I know Jerm is licking his chops to start here, but just because of that, I'm going to start with JT, just because you're too eager to get in here. JT, we've had this conversation. It led to physical. No, I didn't get physical, yeah. I think Dwayne Marcus would have beat me offset. That dude is 6'3". Like, who the hell knew that guy is 6'3"? Is Steph Curry now, JT, in your all-time top 10? Like, I don't know the answer to this already.
Yeah, you already know the answer to this question. And first of all, I want you to take those blockers off and give them to me because you're the real hater in here when it comes to this particular topic. Because unless any of you guys are saying yes to this question, then you guys are true haters. And I'm going to say it before. I'm going to say it again like I said it before. Yes, he's a top 10 player. He was top 10 player to me before this final, regardless of it, just on what he's done. And you know it's dangerous when me and Don agree on something. And this is one of the few things that we agree on. And he's top 10. Now, do you want me to tell you why? Or you just want me to tell you, yes, he's top 10?
You can't come on this show and just say, you know how this works, Jimmy. You have to give your reasons, logic, stats, whatever to support your argument.
Cool, because I just wanted to make sure you weren't going to get mad, jump off your own show, because I don't want this to be shut down and I'll be stuck with Jerm, and then we'll be on here for 2 hours. But yeah, so I don't have a great, analytics department like you. I don't have all these resources. I don't have, Neil to give me all the stats. But I do have Don, and sometimes, shot in the dark, he's right sometimes with stats. And I'm going to tell you why he is a top 10 player. And Don, if you're watching, thank you for these stats. It's the only reason I'm a little good during this topic is because my buddy helped me out. 10 players in NBA history have won at least 4 titles and 2 league MVPs. 3 of those guys are guards. Steph just joined the club. And to me, if you're an elite company with MJ and Magic, you got to be top 10. Like Steph Curry, we're talking about is he the best guard of all time? Like he's an elite company right now. Got to be a top 10 player. So stats alone, I think he's got it. Obviously 3-point champ. But you just look at, to me personally, and I know we'll get into, ranking players a little bit later, but when we're talking about what a top 10 player is, like, yeah, you got to have the stats, you got to have the hardware, but you also got to have the legacy. And like, I just look at like what Steph Curry has done to not just the NBA, but just basketball is insane. Like, I wish I could have sent this picture so he could have put up this graphic for you, but it was a picture of just looking at, big guys or, fat guys, skinny, small guys, and like, regular athletic guys, and like what they used to do back in the day. Like, small, short guys are going to drive and pass. Big guys are going to post and lay it up, and then shooters shoot. And then it's a picture of those 3 guys today, and everybody's just shooting threes. Why is that? It's because of Steph Curry. Like, Steph Curry literally changed the way people play basketball. Everybody wants to shoot threes. He changed the way people in front offices build teams, the way they scout players, the way they develop players. And you just look at guys that were either once great or were on their way to being good that couldn't even play in today's NBA because of Steph Curry. You look at like Tim Duncan. I know we're probably gonna get into that to Tim Duncan a little bit later, but I'm not sure Tim Duncan can play in today's NBA because of the impact that Steph Curry has had on the game. Like, he'd be off the court. You can look at guys like Andre Drummond, 2-time All-Star, can't even play. I know you're gonna laugh at me, but like Roy Hibbert, 2-time All-Star, on his way to being a really good big man, ran him out of the league because of the way Steph Curry changed the game. And you just look at that, and you could throw David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, and guys in there like that too. Like, they can't play in today's NBA because of how Steph Curry has changed the game. So when you look at a guy that has all the accolades and a guy that has changed not just the way people play on the court, but the way front offices build teams, the way they scout players, and the way people play pickup ball at, let's say, at LA Fitness or any other place you guys play pickup ball, that's the definition of legacy and changing the culture of basketball. He got to be a top 10 player. And if he's not in your top 10, sir, take off your shades so people can see your real face. And Justin, you already know we're going to disagree all night if he's not a top 10 player.
No, trust me, you have Jerm as an ally. Believe you me, you didn't need him to take off the shades. Jerm has been waiting for too long, and has welcome Steezy Smith, my brother. Let guys know how's it going on.
Yo, Justin, JT, Jerm, man, what's up, you guys? Hope you guys are feeling well. Definitely a pleasure always being on, Justin. I can't wait to kick things off, but Jerm, go do your Dougie.
Do your thing, Jerm, because I feel it's going to be a 3-on-1 tonight. It's going to be one of those Pornhub situations where, you know.
Absolutely. Right, absolutely. Get the baby wipes ready, Justin. Let me tell you, I don't want to be prisoner in the moment. We're a couple days removed from the NBA Finals, the one that I correctly predicted that the Warriors would romp through. Yeah, the Boston got an extra game out of it, whatever. You had the random Al Horford, Marcus Smart game, but those days are gone. The remains, the last little bit of juice out of Al Horford ran out. Throw the carton out in the trash. But Steph Curry has changed the game. This era, you go to any AAU gym right now, there's a bunch of number 30 kids terrible at basketball, jacking up threes from the half court. And guess who? That ain't from LeBron James. That ain't from Nikola Jokic, your MVP. That's
the league MVP.
The league MVP. The corporate MVP. They didn't want to give it to Joel. They're hating on the GOAT. But of course he's in the top 10 now. He was in the top 15. Now with his 4th title, his 2nd without Durant, he's won it in every way imaginable. From being built up, he's escaped the wrath of Mark Jackson. All you idiots out there keep trying to get Mark Jackson hired. Guy's a bum. He's won these 4 titles. I'm never going to penalize Steph Curry for using the 3 as his weapon, right? I don't penalize Randy Moss for only being a deep threat. It's a lethal weapon. That Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. He is the greatest scoring guard we have ever seen. Of course he's in the top 10, Justin. And I know we're about to give our list out in a little bit, but he passed Larry Bird for me the other.
Thank you for joining this, Justin. I like to, let guys plug them. No, go ahead, Jerm.
Oh no, that's the tease. I'm going to leave it right there. He has passed Larry Bird, and that's not even the worst of it. Wait until I tell you who he kicked out of the top 10.
I can't believe someone said it's past Larry Bird. Thankfully, I have my laptop on my lap. We're waiting for stats and stuff like that. But,
stats are for nerds.
I'm a gracious host, so I go last. Take it away, Steezy.
Honestly, Justin, I think I have a good idea of where you stand. So I hate to make it 3-on-1 like you alluded to, but I mean, at this point, it's becoming undeniable. I mean, what else is really missing on Steph Curry's resume? All the talk was about the Finals MVP not being there, but after averaging 31, 6, and 5, what is there left to accomplish? Other than continue to pile up longevity or cumulative stats. And when you look at cumulative stats, okay, he's not even in the top 50 in terms of scoring all time. He's only at just barely over 20,000 points. But if Larry Bird is a consensus top 10 player of all time, what's his career? As far as, excuse me. He only has over 21,000 points. And so you can't look at cumulative stats and say, oh, because Steph Curry doesn't have, 25K points. He doesn't have 7K assists. He doesn't have, 3K steals. You can't put him in the top 10 because of that. Because Larry Bird's, he's still in my top 10. I don't know about Jerm, but Larry Bird's in my top 10. He barely only has 21K in terms of points. I think in terms of assists, he's like 47th. And so Steph, he's going to close in, I feel like, in the top 50 in both assists and points. But other than that, there's really nothing else missing. Finals MVP, check. 4-time champ, check. 8-time All-NBA, 8-time All-Star. I mean, I don't need to get into it. He's already the greatest shooter of all time. Ray Allen, as we know, is second in terms of made threes. But Steph Curry had, 5 less seasons, 474 less games, and 129 less attempts than Ray Allen. And yeah, he's already number one. He's the only player in NBA history with 3,000 made threes. And that's only going to continue to get higher. I wouldn't be surprised if he's at 4,000 by the time he retires. He's 34 years old, but he's not, this athletic specimen where he's going to have to rely on athleticism to continue to carry him, throughout the latter stages of his career. I think at this point, there's really nothing that's going to slow him down other than himself. And so I think once he, continues to play longer, obviously the cumulative stats are going to come because that's really the only thing that's missing. So other than that, I mean, I think at this point, like I said, is undeniable. I mean, he's easily a top 10 player for me.
Now, here's the thing, right? What I'm about to say. I am actually not disagreeing with any of what y'all said, and the arguments you all put forward are very strong arguments, except for Jerm pushing him past Larry Bird, but we'll get to that in a moment, right? I think the biggest thing for me, and as a friend of mine, brought me into this discussion and explained to me, and I agree. The mere fact that we're having this debate means that there's nothing really against saying that, Steph Curry, is a top 10 player of all time. And I will say, I am not against anyone that has him in the top 10. Like, I live with that. I have no issue because where I have him, for those who don't know, I will toggle between 11 and 12. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, he's down at number 20. I have him right outside the top 10. Right outside the top 10. My personal issue with those who say he's top 10 is that we act like the top 10 is this magical place where we find fairies and unicorns and pixie dust, right? Without understanding, when you say a guy is top 10 all time, the real meaning behind that, you're saying there are not 10 players that are better than Steph Curry or have the careers better than Steph Curry. And therein lies my problem. That's why I don't have him in my top 10, because I can name top 10 players who, in my estimation, have greater careers than Steph Curry. Now, to Steezy's point, you're correct. He has all the boxes ticked off for me. And the last thing was that finals MVP. And people will think that's not major, but it is major. Because as I told JD before, you need to show that on the biggest stage in your sport, you were the best player on that stage. And that's important. Like, because every other top 10 player has done that. Like every last one. And it can't be a situation where you're on that stage and you are not the best player on the court. In your era, at least. Here is why I don't have Steph in the top 10. And again, this is not absolute. I'm not upset with people who have him in the top 10. In that, when you stack him up against everyone else, right? Now he's got that one finals MVP, and he probably should have two. Because Andre Iguodala did deserve that. Let's be honest here. He should have two. But then when you stack him up against everyone else, the one common theme you keep going over and over again, right? Again, as I said, for me, JT touched on it. You have titles, you've got the MVPs, you've got the finals MVPs now. But then when you look at your peers, all your peers have this long list of all NBA first team appearances. Like a long list. And if you're going to be better than somebody, you're going to have more than these things of these people you want to surpass. So let's take a position. Let's take the person at your position, Magic, who would have played the same amount of seasons that you have currently right now. I think 13. Magic has more than twice the number of all NBA appearances first team than Steph has. Steph has 4. Magic has 9 in 13 seasons. Like, you look like LeBron, Duncan, Kobe, Magic, Mike. They've got them in double digits in most cases. Kareem. You can't then tell me you have him above these guys. and then he doesn't have the hardware to match. Like you may see, all right, let's put him above Duncan. Duncan has more titles. Duncan has more All-NBA first teams. Duncan has All-NBA defensive teams out the wazoo. These are things, that's something that Steph does not have. So if you're going to say you're better than somebody, Larry Bird has 3 MVPs, 2 finals MVPs, a ton of All-NBA first teams. Larry Bird, from the moment he stepped on the court, was an All-NBA first team for 3 straight seasons from the moment he stepped in as a rookie. How then are you telling me, when everything tells me, or all the numbers, the accolades are weighing towards a Larry Bird, a Shaq, Kobe, that Steph Curry is better than? Yes, it sounds good to see he's he's a top 10 player, but is his resume greater than 10 other players? I don't know. Sorry, for me, it's no.
Come on home, Justin, because I feel like
that's crazy.
You run it out of excuses not to move him up 2 more spots.
So basically, what you're saying is Robert Horry is greater than Michael Jordan because he has more championship rings. What you're saying is Chris Paul can't be in the discussion for greatest point guard of all time or one of the greatest players because his accolades don't match up with a Magic Johnson's. The NBA all-team process. The NBA all-team process is. What I'm saying is the NBA all-team process is flawed. Joel Embiid was a first-team NBA player, right? But because they do it by positions, he got snubbed and put down to the second team. Joel Embiid's one of the top 5 players in the league right now. No, so Magic.
That for you, right? So here's the thing, though. Going to Robert Horry to dismiss that argument. Robert Horry has no individual accolades. He only has. He has 7 titles.
But you're picking and choosing. My argument is you're picking and choosing which accolade. What criteria you're using?
It's a collection of accolades. When you look at these players, right? When you look
the MVP is a popularity contest. Steve Nash took Kobe's. Kobe should be a 5-6-time MVP. He, but they give it to other people. LeBron should be MVP.
Kobe definitely should have won more MVPs, and because it is a popularity contest and people hated him at the time, he didn't get more MVPs. And Jerm, I'll real quick before you go, Justin. I just want to add it on to this. Like, I don't know about your top 10 list, and we'll talk about that at some point. But for me, if you're going to be on the top 10 list, I feel like the accolades are a given. Like, you have to have some sort of credentials to get into the club. But also, too, it's about legacy. Like, you're talking about, like, how can he be in the same league as Larry Bird? Like, other than winning some games, like, what is Larry Bird remembered for? Like, do people know, like, do the average people really know, like, what Larry Bird is famous for? Like how did Larry Bird change
McDonald's
the game?
commercials?
Like,
McDonald's commercials.
Thank you, but I'm just saying, but, like, Steph Curry, like,
or the Converse.
Positive or not, how you feel about it, like, people gonna remember that. Like, he's changed the game. The same reason you look at MJ or LeBron. Like, where's the legacy part of somebody like, even like a Tim Duncan, like the most boring player of all time? You want to talk about Jokic, like, that's the most boring player of all time. And it's like, other than winning, like, what's Tim Duncan's like legacy to the game? Like what has he done for the game? Like, Steph Curry, like, should be at least in the conversation to be above those 2 guys.
But okay, so you talk about legacy, and it's pretty weird that you would bring that up. Larry Bird's legacy. Larry Bird played in arguably the greatest era of basketball history, and was
negative, sir.
Yeah, the 80s. Like if we go through top 10 lists, we're gonna mention at least 3 players in the 80s. And like you're going to mention Kareem, you're going to mention Magic, you're going to mention Larry Bird. All 3 of those players played in the 80s. This is arguably the greatest era of basketball. And you're asking what's his legacy? His legacy is a 3-time champ, a 3-time MVP, in a time in which Kareem, Abdul-Jabbar, and Magic Johnson, arguably 2 top 5 players, played on the same team.
Hold on, time out.
He did it for a legacy franchise in the Boston Celtics. When you talk about legacy and the Boston Celtics, the first 2 names that come up are Bill Russell and then Larry Bird. So I find it weird that you would say, what is Larry Bird's legacy?
And I'm glad you brought that up, because the same way you were propping up Larry Bird, then Steph Curry's legacy is better, because guess what? A guy who you're probably going to rank number 2 on your list, he stopped that man from probably being number 1 on your list because he stopped him from winning titles in LeBron. So, like, you talking about he dominated a guy who's arguably top 2 of all time. Like,
so then what
stop that guy from being the GOAT. Like, how is that legacy not better than Larry Bird? Larry Bird had a very, very good team, by the way.
But hold on your argument then. You're saying Steph's top 1. Larry Bird's top 2 on the same team from getting even more titles. He faced Kareem and Magic, who played together, and these are two undeniable top 5 players of all
Is
time.
Kareem your number
and
one?
Larry Bird, pardon me?
Is Kareem going to be your number one? I'm not trying to spoil your list, but if Kareem is Kareem going to be your number one?
Talk to
Anyone
him.
that knows me knows that Kareem is my number one. Anyone knows that. So I'm gonna let because Steezy want to hop in there quickly.
Look, I just want to say, JT, brother, we on the same team, but Larry Bird is top 10 of all time. We can't question his legacy because him and Magic Johnson are responsible for making the NBA relevant back in the 80s. We'll touch on that in a little bit, but I just wanted to add, Justin, earlier you talked about Steph's lack of all NBA first team appearances. I get that. That's a valid argument, but let's not forget Steph had a later, or his arrival came later on because the beginning of his career was marred by ankle injuries. And so his superstardom didn't come until later on. But like I talked about, in the beginning of my, rant from earlier, there's still so much time. I mean, his game isn't, predicated on athleticism. And so I think, barring injury, that's going to come. But Justin, I wanted to ask you, do you place more of an emphasis on peak or all NBA first team appearances? Because when you talk about Stephen Curry, he's the only player in NBA history. There's Michael Jordan, there's Kareem, there's Bryant, there's so many different greats. But Steph Curry, the 6'3" guard out of Davidson, is the only one in NBA history with the unanimous NBA MVP. I think that holds a lot more weight than any sort of all NBA first team appearance. And the fact that the game is now transitioning towards more of a 3-point attack. Okay, maybe there's some people out there that'll say, okay, Steph, he's not responsible for that. He didn't change the game in that regard. You'd be crazy to say that. But if he's not the one who changed it, he's at least responsible for the NBA shifting towards, the 3-point attack. But the fact that the gap between him and Ray Allen is so huge and he's still going, I think for me that also holds more weight than another All-NBA first team, All-NBA second team appearance.
You made a point, and I'm glad you brought it up. Steph's peak started later. But then can you hold that against the others? Because if your peak is shorter than the others who have dominated from the jump, and we're talking Magic won a title as a rookie with a finals MVP. Larry Bird is the first all-NBA player for the first 3 years of his career. LeBron James is made the All-Star in his second year, as in Michael Jordan. So then if you're seeing he is better than these guys with a shorter peak or a peak that started later, how is that fair to those players who dominated? Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the greatest player from the day he stepped foot in the league. Like he was the best player in the league as a rookie. So then how then do you say, well,
where are you getting that his peak is short? He's been a top 5 player in the league since 2012 when he first beat.
But shorter. This is to Steezy's point because
he's been the top 5 player for 10 years now, and he's still playing. Yeah, he set the 3-point record 3 separate seasons. 2012, 2015, and then like 16 or 17. He's been dominating as a top 5 player in this league for 10 years, and he's still going.
Not 10 years, Jerm, but for the first 3 or 4
years. He set that first 3-point
Steph
record
Curry
in 2012.
Steph Curry won the All-Star in the first 3 or 4 years. And again, please, people, understand, I am not here hating on Steph. It's not like you have him at 20.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. It's for Jerm, put the shades back on.
Yeah, man. Let me get these hater blockers back on, man. This guy's going.
I feel like another reason, though, like, this is another reason, a problem why people hate on Steph Curry is, I think it's his image, too. It's like, because he's 6'3", he's small. He's not the, like, athletic marvel. Like, if LeBron were doing all these things, like, he'd be easily number one because it looks like LeBron. Like,
yeah, you guys are giving
LeBron. Steph Curry is GOAT Marcus. That's exactly who he is.
Yeah.
Like, he's a 6'3" guy. He can shoot.
Because
like, and you don't, and you in your mind, it does not equate to.
That's
not what a top 10 player looks like. But
true.
that he is.
But I just point out, Jimmy, and that's unfair. You're saying this is the reason I don't want Steph, and I've given you the reasons. Like, so to your point, Jerm, if I'm about to answer it, you are saying I'm picking and choosing. I'm saying no. When you look at players that we all mentioned, right, from 1 to 15 or 1 to 12, 13, there's one thing they're all going to have in common. A laundry list of accolades, not 1, not 2. You're going to have. So you're going to have multiple titles. You're going to have multiple MVPs. You're going to have multiple finals MVPs. You're going to have all NBA first team, second teams, whatever. You're going to have all of those things. Because when you talk about Mike, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, Wilt, Kareem, there's just no, even Bill Russell, who on my own show I heard hate, and I can't believe this, a 5-time MVP on my show again hate. But when you look at all these players, they all have these things in common. And I'm glad that Steph has these things. And I'm not saying he is a bum. I'm not saying, because the show is titled All-Time Great. Because I honestly think Steph is an all-time great. But
Can there be a weighted scale with you? So what? How many MVPs is it going to take? Because Steph on the top 10 list, there's maybe 2 players, maybe 3, other than Steph that I don't know revolutionized the entire game of basketball. Can that like mean something over
but of course
Finals
it needs,
MVPs?
because, but to be fair, all right, since you mentioned that, I'm glad you did. Hasn't LeBron? Sorry, let's start. Hasn't Kareem?
No, LeBron has not revolutionized the game of
right,
basketball.
I skipped that. But to
Not on the court, at least.
No,
Right,
I'm-
not on the court.
we're keeping it on the court.
Right.
His
We're keeping it
impact
on the
off the
court.
court is
right,
bar
so
none.
we'll keep it up.
Ginormous.
Right.
We'll keep it on the court.
Yeah.
What you see from the time he started, Wilt revolutionized the game.
Yes.
So then, 2, you can see Shaq, obviously, because rules had to be changed to be able to guard Shaq. Michael Jordan for a guard, because before Michael Jordan and Magic, guards didn't dominate the NBA. So you know Michael and Magic revolutionized the game.
I wouldn't
So
say
to
Magic revolutionized the game. I would
you
just say
know he passed first.
the game didn't change because of Magic Johnson. He was just a great
He was
player.
just a physical
He
freak.
he's more of he's more of LeBron than Jordan in that aspect. Like he was just so physically gifted that it was amazing to watch, but he didn't change the game of basketball because Larry Bird was giving him that work too. So it wasn't like he just came and took over, right? Like it just that Magic
But you
is
see,
like
Larry Bird,
it's a
that you're
different.
talking, you're saying you're no admitted that.
I never said Larry Bird was out of my top 10. I just said Steph passed him.
Fair enough. And the reason we know Penny Hardaway, the reason we know LeBron James, it's because of Magic Johnson, a massive point guard that can do everything. That is Magic Johnson's impact on the game, and a pass first player like we've never seen before Magic. A pass first player becomes so dominant to win 3 MVPs. That's Magic. But guys,
And he revolutionized the fast break. I think that's one of his claims to fame. I mean, no team. We didn't really see teams dominating or making the fast break a thing until Magic Johnson came around. And so, Jerm, again, brother, we on the same team, but I'm gonna have to defer.
But
from
how
you
many
there. And same with you,
6'10" point
JT, as it
guards?
pertains to
How many
Larry Bird.
6'10" point guards came after Magic Johnson immediately? Like when Steph came in, a bunch of these tiny little guys were like, "Oh wait, I can just shoot the basketball." And then we had a bunch of Steph Curry clones. We didn't have any Magic Johnson clones. Like Giannis.
LeBron James.
Okay, look, but okay, 2003 versus 1984. You know what I'm saying? Right, Magic Johnson in 1980, whatever. Then now 2003. Literally, like 4 years after Steph Curry came out, all these little ass point guards were like, "Oh wait, I can make a difference. I'm just gonna stop trying to be Allen Iverson because I can't because of his greatness and his physical ability, but I can shoot threes." That's revolutionizing the game. He just Magic is inclonable.
Please, people understand me, and I mean, I'm talking to people in the comments now. I truly believe Steph has revolutionized the game, whether for better or for worse. Because as Jimmy talked, we've got some fat guys, some big guys who need to get their behind in the paint, shooting threes, but that's another conversation for another game. Like, I think we'll say this to a point. I don't even think there is a player who has revolutionized the game more than Steph Curry. Like that's how high regard I have Steph Curry. I just don't think it's a bad thing to say Steph Curry is 11 or 12, but
But how could he not be in the top 10 if you're basically making the case for why he's a top 10 player? Wins, accolades, and revolution. Like that's a top 10 player in any sport.
That's mine.
Like
I
how
just
is he not there?
that there are 10 players, and we're going to get to that. No, Martian's offset, cursing me for not moving on with the show. So we'll get to the 10 players I have above Steph. But let's start with Steezy, my late guest. So we'll give him first crack at this. On this show, you just can't list your top 10. You got to give us reasons why. So how about it, Steezy? Who is in your top 10?
Of course. I'm going to start off at the bottom. So at number 10, I have Mr. 11 Rings himself, Bill Russell. At number 9, I got Wardell, Stephen Curry. At number 8, I got Timmy D. At number 7, I got the Big Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal. At number 6, actually, no, flip that. At number 7, I had Larry Bird. At number 6, I had Shaquille O'Neal. At number 5, greatest point guard of all time, Magic Johnson. Number 4, I got Kobe Bean Bryant. Number 3, I got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 2, King James. And then number 1, the GOAT, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And Justin, you can answer this later.
It sounds like
no, I'm leaving him out.
Ooh, I love it.
I'm leaving him out. I got to. I mean, look, 2 rings. I think everybody in the top 10 has a minimum of 3. Wilt had 2. And he was playing in an era with how many teams in the league? I understand he revolutionized the game. I understand they had to change the rules. I understand, all that. And I don't want to take anything away from him. And he was in my top 10 before Steph creeped in. But look, 5 finals games under 10 points, Wilt Chamberlain. And we talk about, or at least Skip Bayless.
That's so great Bill Russell really was.
Right. So psychologically, obviously, he was in his head. A lot of the demons in his head were Bill Russell demons, and I understand that. But come on, y'all. Wilt Chamberlain also played with Jerry West. He's played with Elgin Baylor. He's played with a bunch of greats, and only 2 rings when the primary competition was Bill Russell. Okay, I get it. He had 8, 9, 10 Hall of Famers on his team. But think about the competition as well. How many teams were in the league? Less than 16. Was it 10? Was it 12? And you got Steph Curry now doing this. Everyone talks about how the league now is so much more talented than ever. Right, LeBron, KD, Steph. There's so many different superstars. I mean, this league, Giannis, Kawhi. I haven't even touched Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard, Luka Doncic. Like, this league is so much more talented now. And so I think with Steph Curry, dominating the competition to the tune of 4 rings in 8 years, I understand KD was there along for the ride, but Steph has been the first or the second best player on 4 title teams, and that still has to count for something. And so I just think with Wilt Chamberlain, I mean, like I talked about too, that holds a lot of weight. What you do in the finals, I think what Steph doesn't or does do in the finals is a little overblown, especially guys like Skip Bayless talks about how he continuously falls short. Steph Curry does not have a single.
That is the fastest way you'll get blocked. Do not mention Skip Bayless on this show, please. This is a decent family program. Let's not do that.
That's a good idea. I don't even have to mention his name, not anymore. But I just feel like, look, what you do in the finals or what you don't do in the finals, that holds a lot of weight to me. And Wilt Chamberlain, 5 such games with 10 or less points, that's not going to cut it. Steph Curry has 0 such games. And talk about this theory that he falls flat in finals games. I mean, come on.
No,
that's just outright ridiculous. I mean, right? And in the finals, alongside Jerry West, Michael Jordan, and LeBron James, he's one of 4 players to average 35 and 5 in the NBA Finals. MJ and LeBron both had 3 years doing so, and then Jerry West and Steph had 2 seasons of doing so. And Steph Curry is the only player in NBA history to average 35, 5, and 5 3-pointers in the NBA Finals. So that's just to continue to pile on to my case as to why Steph is a top 10 player. But look, MJ, or when I'm curating my top 10, I think for me it's a combination of peak. It's a combination of accolades. It's a combination of rings. It's a combination of stats. It's a combination of longevity. And I think with my top 10, I mean, MJ, LeBron's been my favorite player for a while now. And I hate getting into this LeBron and MJ debate because, people are always expecting me to side with LeBron just because he's been my favorite player for so long. I think Steph has since overtaken that title. But with MJ, I mean, come on, y'all. He's had 2 3-peats, 6 rings, 6-0. 30 points a game in the regular season, one of 2 guards to win Defensive Player of the Year, and then MVP, Finals MVP, and all that. I mean, look, he's undisputed number 1 for me. LeBron James, I think he could get there with another, maybe another ring or 2. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I mean, all-time leading scorer. I think LeBron's going to eclipse him, but the longevity is one of the main reasons why he's at number 3 for me. Kobe being Bryant, though, for me, I have him at 4 because I don't know. I mean, 5 rings, the closest thing we've seen to MJ in terms of playing style. A lot of people want to discredit him for those 3 rings that he won with Shaq. But keep in mind, I mean, it's kind of like the Steph and the KD debate, right? But Kobe was averaging like 27 and 7 alongside Shaq. And so it's not like Shaq just, completely, outright dominated, relative to what his teammates were doing. So I think for me, Kobe, he's the greatest Laker of all time. You got to have him at number 4, at least in the top 5 at the very least.
Magic Johnson is somewhere right in the game.
Nah, you right, Steezy. Hey, Steezy, you right.
Yeah, no, it got to be Kobe. And longevity, Kobe, 20 seasons compared to 13 for Magic. That's 7 more seasons. I know he came out straight out of high school, so he was younger coming into the league. But like I said,
and
longevity.
He had a part to play. Yeah, just a small part, but.
Right. Unfortunately, right? But look, I hold a lot of weight on longevity. So that's that. Shaquille O'Neal, 6. Again, I'm just going to run this down. 7, Larry Bird. 8, Tim Duncan. 9, Steph Curry. And then Bill Russell at 10. I think it'll take too long for me to dive into each player. So if you guys have any questions or want to touch on a specific ranking, just go ahead and ask away. But for me, that's my top 10.
You can deal with the people in the comments. Jimmy has been sitting there with stern look. I already know his top 10, but I'm going to give it anyway because they want to hear Jerm. They want to save Jerm for last. The people are come here to hear Jerm. So, Jimmy, I know your top 10 already, but for those who don't know, let them know.
All right, I'm telling you that you don't know my top 10 because it's recently changed. And there's players that I'll admit that that were a little bit lower, I moved up. There's a guy that wasn't even in my top 10 before. And you know what? After heated behind the scenes debates, put him in my top 10.
So you're saying
So I'll
that
just
you're easily swayed and that you are
no. I didn't say one debate. I said heated debates. There's been multiple of these. So I like the way Steezy did his. I'll go from 10 to 1, create mystery. So at 10, I got Kobe Bryant. Number 9, I got Bill Russell. 8 got Larry Bird. 7 got Steph Curry. And I got Wilt at 6, Shaq at 5, Kareem at 4, Magic at 3, MJ at 2, and LeBron at number 1. So I know that list is probably controversial, so I'm not even going to try to explain myself. I'll let you guys ask me or tell me the problems you have with my list.
Steph Curry eclipsing everybody almost like, but like the obvious, like how do you have Steph Curry above Bird and Duncan and company? Like,
well, Duncan, don't get me started on him. Like I love Tim Duncan, but he's not in my top 10. He was at one point, but I moved him out for Wilt. Because Steezy, I'm actually gonna go to something you said. I used to be in your camp thinking of Wilt like, oh, he's playing against PE teachers and he's out there just running wild.
That's not true.
But a big thing, and that's how I used to think. But a big thing with my top 10 is like for any sport is obviously what you did in the sport, legacy, but also I look at does your skill set translate to other eras? Because I feel like Tim Duncan is one of those guys where I don't think it does. It doesn't translate to every era. Wilt, I feel like if Giannis can play and win an MVP in this era, I think Wilt could. And like you look at the stats that Wilt put up, like for like season averages are insane. Like how could you average 30, 20, and like 15? Like that's insane. Like he wasn't shooting threes. Like he was just out there dominating. Like I'm just thinking, okay, if he could get in today's NBA coaching, or coaches will allow him to do more, like I can see Wilt being an MVP in today's league. So for that alone, like he got to be in my top 10 because I can't penalize him for the era that he played in. Like coaches were probably reluctant to use the full skill set that he had.
So, but then you're saying that, but you just did the same thing with Tim Duncan. You're saying you're not.
No, I didn't because there's a difference between being held back and there's a difference between you can't do it. Like I don't see Tim Duncan all of a sudden just being able to shoot 3-pointers. Like that ain't happening.
So here's
like,
the question.
I don't see Tim Duncan being able to be like, all right, I'm going to be a stretch 4 and be on the perimeter and drive and do all this stuff. Like, I don't see that being able to happen. Like, he's going to be a post player in any era.
So here's my thing then, if you're going to say that. Without the 3-point arc in the 50s and 60s, do you think Steph Curry can play back then?
Yeah, I think he could because I think the one thing that's really underrated with Steph Curry is he is very athletic. Like, I think that's the reason why Michael Jordan was so instantly successful in the league. And like, if you watch The Last Dance, that's the first thing that jumped off the screen to me that like, I noticed this dude stepped into the league and was instantly the most athletic guy in the league. Like you see how far being an elite athlete will elevate you early on. That's how LeBron did it. Look at John Morant. Like, is he a talented player? No, but he's athletic as hell. And he's already probably much further along than he should be. And I feel like Steph Curry playing in the era, let's say with Wilt Chamberlain, like he can still shoot. It might not count as a 3-pointer, but he still can shoot. He's still faster than Craig Elo or Jeff Hornacek. Like he's going to blow past those guys. So, and he can pass. He's a good passer. So I think he's a good shooter, athletic, can hit all his free throws. Like, tell me what era he couldn't play in.
60s. Couldn't guard anybody, and they're not going to. He's not. No coach is going to allow him to shoot that 3.
He could. So he couldn't guard Mr. Williams, the PE teacher that runs a 6 flat.
He can't guard anyone. No. I'm just joking.
But the game is so much more athletic. He can guard. Did the Celtics just everybody just average 40 and Steph was just out there just not playing no defense? Steph played good defense. You just don't think of him as a defensive player. Like I thought he did very well on defense, but I think his skill set translates to every era. If you can shoot, you can play in any era. If you can pass with high basketball IQ, play in any era. If you can shoot free throws, any era. Like all his skill set translates. Like he can do everything that his position calls for.
Oh, before I get to Jerm, the player that everyone loves to hate. Steezy, there's somebody in the comment who wanted your number 5, so if you could answer them quickly. Who's your number 5?
Magic Johnson.
Okay, there you go. Splash Bro, number 1. Magic Johnson is indeed Steezy's number 5, but that's a bit too low for me. I'm just joking. Jerm, this is what no one wants to hear my 10. They really came for yours. So, Jerm, floor is yours.
And I'm going to start at number one because it's the most obvious. Okay, number one's Michael Jordan. I mean, like enough of you guys out there. Michael Jordan's number one. Kareem is number two. Magic is number three. Wilt the still. I can't believe the hate I'm hearing for Wilt Chamberlain. Guys, he averaged 50 points in one season. I don't care if Bob the Builder and Dora the Explorer were out there. 50 points is 50 points. You understand? And I don't understand this other argument, Justin. He didn't play against anybody. Wilt Chamberlain played in 29. 29. Who said that? Who said that Wilt didn't play against, or I guess people in general? Wilt Chamberlain played in 29 postseason games, or series, not games, played in a lot of postseason games. 29 series. And he faced 19 different Hall of Fame centers in that span. So don't tell me he didn't play against anybody. He played against mad people. He averaged 30 and 22. So, yes, Wilt is a top 5 player. Number 6, Kobe. Number 7, Shaq. Number 8, Wilt was number 4. I'm sorry. So 5 is Kobe, 6 is Shaq, 7 is Duncan, 8 is LeBron. Steph Curry, number 9. Larry Bird, number 10, which means Bill Russell, get out of here. Get out of here with you and Bob Cousy. Nobody cares about you. Are Robert Ory with better defense, sir. All right, get him out of here. Okay, he's a Boston Celtic. Get him out of here. Steph Curry has now surpassed you. Bill Russell, you were number 10, and that's over now. You got leapfrogged by Steph Curry, who was my original number 12 or 13, somewhere in there. I think we did this before with the top where we would rank Steph, and I think I had him in like the 12, 13, 14 range. I don't think I ranked him, but yeah, Bill Russell and Wilt, people like to interchange them a little bit. If you look at Wilt is far better, a far dominant presence than Bill Russell was. Bill Russell was a great player. To say he's not in the top 10 doesn't mean, like you were saying, Justin, I don't think he sucks. But compared to the rest of these players, like, let's knock it off, okay? Steph Curry, again, when you talk about game changing, not many other players on that list changed the game like Steph did. He definitely earns a place in the top 10. And I will tell you, gentlemen, when I did this, I was like, man, is Steph top 10? When I went through all my research, I easily booted out Bill Russell. So he said give him 7 again.
And a winner of 13 championships, you just discarded. That's what you're saying.
Bob Cousy, get out of here.
Man, you making it seem like Bill Russell was like Bruce Bowen or something, man. Come on.
Bruce Bowen with an afro.
The same Wilt you argue for, and I do love Wilt. The same Wilt you argue for, Steezy brought up a point that he had a number of below 10-point games in the finals. You know there's a reason for that.
How many players scored 100 points in a game before? How many? Just one.
Right.
All right.
Average 50 points for a season. Do you know how hard that is?
Don't talk to me about one playoff series. Don't talk to me about that when this man scored
100
points in a game.
I'm a Wilt believer, guys, but at the same token, we can't say that one guy is great and then dismiss the man who regularly stopped him from winning more than 2 titles. Like, kind of, like, if you're going to say Wilt is grelt, then
he played Wilt when Wilt was old. It was like the end of his career. He didn't play Wilt in his prime. Wilt was all old. Wilt averaged 45 minutes a game, like in his later years. And then you know what he did? He decided to bang a bunch of
extracurricular activity had caught up to Wilt at that point.
He went
like,
on the Conan.
Wait, but didn't Bill Russell come into the league before Wilt?
Nah.
I'm going to check that. I'm going to have Neil and Marshall. I don't think Marshall's with us tonight, but I'm going to have Neil check that. Is there anything else you want to add, Jerm, before you curse me for my top 10? Oh, go ahead, JD.
I do. I have a question. It'll relate to your top 10 too. And this is a serious question for me because I've had this conversation before. With Kobe Bryant on everyone's list, would Kobe Bryant be as high if he were still alive?
Yeah, Kobe was a top 10 player for me when he was still playing.
I'm glad you asked that, JT, because and I will admit to this. The only reason that I moved Kobe from 11 to 10 is because he's dead and I don't want people to curse me for him. I don't want anybody to curse me for him.
But I asked that question because I feel like while Kobe was alive, I didn't really hear that many people be like, oh yeah, like he's definitely better than Magic. Like he's the best Laker of all time. It's not even close. And I feel like part of Kobe's legacy is that he died too soon. And I feel like I don't want to say prisoner of the moment, but I feel like when stuff happens like that, like in people's minds, it elevates you. Like they appreciate your game a lot more. I'm not saying Kobe's a scrub. Like he would be in my top 10 regardless, like if he was alive or not. But I want to know, does him dying tragically too early, like in your mind, does it play a little bit of bias of you elevating him? And like that's always been a legitimate question for me.
Voting for me, and I think Neil is about to tell me if Bill Russell came in the league before Wilt or not.
He did 56 compared to Chamberlain and 59.
And guess what? Bill Russell never scored 100 points in a game. He never averaged 50 points a game. I don't want to hear it. Get out of here.
I'm not
Get out of here.
But he got the rings, though.
Bill Russell had better teams. Did he not?
Got the rings, though.
He got better teams.
But the name of the game is to win championships, right? I mean,
that's what Justice said. It's
that's why I said Bill Russell is Robert Horry with a better afro. That's it. That's all he is. He had 7 rings for Robert Horry. There's a guy out here in the comment section asking me, did I just put LeBron at number 8? Yes, Mr. Joe B 561. Glorified journeymen who skip and make super teams in their prime don't get any top 5 love on this side of town.
You LeBron on LeBron being that low.
LeBron has never. Where's my list again? Okay, guys who've played with the level of All-Star and Hall of Fame, and is not allowed to be in the top 5, bro. Glorified journeymen who jump teams and create super teams in their primes do not get to crack the top 10 ever. You guess what? Kobe, they came to him. Wilt, they came. Magic, they came to him. I mean, Jordan, they came. I don't care. Listen, when you want to be up in the Mount Olympus and the upper echelon, you don't get to use excuses like different league. That's for like the James Hardens of the world. That's for like the regular, just the guys who were just the T-Max of the world. We're talking about the 1%. The 1% get judged with the 1%. And guess what?
That's not true. Yes, that's not true. Be honest. And I want you to reach deep down in your heart and give me some honesty.
He doesn't have
the only reason that you are ranking LeBron remotely low is you're judging him off of the fact that his career didn't go exactly according to plan like Michael Jordan's did. So what? He didn't win 6 of 6. Like that's rare. That's lucky. Like LeBron has all the stats. He has the chips. He has the MVPs. Like how is he all the way down at 8? You want to talk about impact and legacy on the game? Like LeBron is top 2 at that regardless.
Steezy, let me enough of JT. Steezy, Michael Jordan, what is he? When you think of Michael Jordan, when you see Michael Jordan's uniform, when he pops into your head when you hear his name, what is Michael Jordan? He's a bull.
To me,
he's a bull, right?
Killer.
No, I'm talking about like when you visualize him on the court, he's a bull.
Right.
Shaq is a Laker. I know he played for other teams and won champ, but Shaq is a Laker. Kobe is a Laker. Duncan is a Spur. Curry is a Warrior. Bird is a Celtic. What is LeBron? He's a free agent because that's all he does. Every 4 years, just jump teams. He's a mercenary. You don't get top 5 when you get to just jump teams.
So because he didn't stay his whole career and suffer in Cleveland, you're going to put him down at number 8.
When you are judged with the Jordans and the Kobes and the guys who are at the top, yes, that little stuff, that's where it starts to separate. I don't care what your stats are.
But here's the thing. That's not a fair argument because
Jordan played
if
with
Michael Jordan played in today's era, he probably would move too. You think he would have stayed in Chicago and taken all that shit from Krause? Sorry, I know it's a family show. He would have taken all that stuff from Krause? No. He would have leveraged his power to go somewhere else where he wanted to play and try to keep winning.
Jordan played with 1 All-Star in his 6 championship runs. 1.
No, Dennis Rodman is a Hall of Fame.
Dennis Rodman was never an All-Star on the Bulls. He played with 1 All-Star.
But he was an all-star player, and you can't deny that.
LeBron played with how many all-stars?
Players. He played with 2 top
LeBron
75 players.
How many top 75 players LeBron played? Just tell me.
Dwayne Wade.
No, he's played more than that.
He played with way more than Anthony Davis, Carmelo Anthony.
With the remains of Anthony Davis's ankles. Like, that don't even count.
Wait, real quick, Jerm, I just want to ask.
Going by the
facts. Does he get extra points in your book because of that logic?
Hell yeah. Dirk Nowitzki's 1 ring, 13 years suffering with the same team, not bailing out when things got hard. Didn't bail out when Delonte West clapped his mom's cheeks and ran him out of Cleveland. Kobe would never allow that to happen.
It's no longer a family show. That's violation, man. Come on.
The GOATs don't get passing out of the block when JJ Barea is blocking them in the 2011 NBA Finals. The GOATs don't let crackhead Delonte West skeet on his mom's bed sheets and then run him out to town to Miami. Kobe would never. Jordan would never. Wilt would never. Damn, number 11 of my all-time list, Bill Russell would never. So don't talk.
You know why? You know why Kobe never had to do that? Because Jerry Buss gave him the franchise and shipped out Shaquille O'Neal. Cleveland was never committed to making everything about LeBron as much as he did for that franchise.
Sounds like you're making my argument for me, because if LeBron was Kobe, then that would have happened.
Okay.
But Jerm,
If LeBron had a better organization, if LeBron would have been drafted to anybody but Cleveland, the chance of him staying there his whole career might have been higher.
Dog, if my aunt had balls, she would be my uncle. I can only go by what's already happened. Sorry.
And you know what? If your aunt played a different era, she might have left Cleveland too.
Listen, my aunt would have ran Delonte out of there. We got to move on. But
given my top 10, and so let me just give it quickly so we can move on. I'll do like most of her and start at 10 and come forward. Like you said, though, JT, I don't think it's a widespread thing, but for me, because Kobe died, I tried to avoid the hate spewed my way, so I put him at 10. So Kobe 10, Bill Russell 9, Shaq 8, Duncan 7, Bird 6, Wilt 5, Magic 4, LeBron 3, Mike 2, Kareem 1. And I know a lot of people ask why Kareem. JT was here for this show, I believe. I did this. I tried to leave any emotion I had out of this. Prior to this, I've always had Kareem number 1 for anyone who knows this show and knows me personally. But I did the top 3 objectively. I always felt Mike, LeBron, and Kareem separated themselves from everyone else. So I did an objective list. I gave 1 point for every accolade, and I'll tell you the accolades. It was titles won, MVPs, finals MVPs, all NBA first teams, all NBA defensive teams, and all-star appearances. So I gave defensive player of the year as well. So I gave 1 point for each of one of these accolades won. And I honestly thought that Mike would have come out at top. It was actually Kareem won. I think Kareem had, I can't remember the number, maybe Neil will be able to tell me. But Kareem came out number 1, narrowly over LeBron 2, narrowly over Mike 3. And that's how he came out. And I still have Mike above LeBron for whatever reason, I guess, because I grew up in the 90s as much as I like LeBron more than Mike.
And Mike is better. And Mike is just a better player. But that actually brings up a good point, because I don't think Kareem gets enough love in the GOAT conversation. I feel like he's like the basketball version of Dan Marino. It's like, oh yeah, and Kareem. And I think he should get held to a higher standard. But these guys have to be educated in your comment section here, Joe56B. You can come on. You can come on this show when I'm on. You can come on Stuff About Sports. I'll educate your kid and teach you the way of how things are done, and not fall to prisoner of the moment. You watch Sports Center. That's why you think LeBron is so great. It's okay. You don't actually watch the games and do what you got to do. But listen,
Jerm, we're gonna get into this later.
Dirk,
I promise you.
Dirk, you said something. Not only does Dirk's ring mean more, it even means more. LeBron's ring and his ring in Cleveland doesn't even mean as much, because again, he tried to build a super team with Kyrie and Kevin Love, and he basically traded for all his friends. Everybody wants to. He traded the old franchise. He gave Tristan Thompson a max contract. That ring should be taken away for that reason. He gave J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson a max contract. That ring shouldn't count. But Giannis' ring and Dirk's ring mean more than any of LeBron's rings.
This is a topic for another time, and I believe in me, guys. The next show we do, I'm going to bring back the same cast because we need the same energy. But I really, really do have to move on because I'm behind the 8 ball. Guys, know that Steph Curry has joined your top 10 and many others' top 10s. And again, people, it's not like I have Steph somewhere in 50 or even 20. I have him at number 12. Oh, for those who are wondering, I did name my top 10. Still don't have Steph at 11. Who do I have at 11? A guy it hurts me to leave out the top 10 is Hakeem Olajuwon, but that's a conversation for another time, because I think that Hakeem Olajuwon is the most disrespected superstar Hall of Famer that ever played basketball. But again, conversation for another time. So now that Steph has joined the top 10 of most people's list, guys, where does that now rank Golden State Warriors dynasty? JT, I will start with you this time.
Well, first of all, you better hope Joel Embiid never wins a championship, because we'll have to shut down all our shows for a whole month. Because he'll just automatically go to number 1 on somebody's list, and we'll never hear the end of it. But neither here nor there. I feel like this question, like when you sent it to me, I thought one, it was very unfair because you're asking us to rate a book that's still being written versus like classics that have been around forever, and it's not fair. So if we're judging off of what has happened, they gotta be number 4, and they gotta be behind the Bulls. Obviously, Bulls are 6 for 6, back-to-back, 2-time three-peats. Lakers 70s and 80s, 5 and 8 trips that they went, and then the Celtics of the 50s and 60s, 11 and 12 and 8 in a row. So those stories are finished, but I gotta put there's no way I could honestly put the Warriors dynasty as it stands right now ahead of those 3 dynasties. It's just not. There's just no way I could do that. So they have to be number 4.
Did you purposely miss a dynasty? Do you purposely have this Warriors dynasty above the Duncan Spurs?
I do, just because I feel like the Warriors have gone through more adversity in their dynasty. Like, honestly, the fact that they won this title almost made me put them in the top 3. Like, how many teams in any sport can have their core just be wiped off the map with injuries, and then 2 years later, like, they're the best team in the league? They went from worst to first to worst to first again. Like, that's insane. Like, I don't think the Spurs ever went through that. Like, they were always humming. They might not have been the number 1 team, but they were always humming during their dynasty. Like, the Warriors literally like have gone peak to valley, and like they might not come back down for the next 3-4 years. So yeah, that's why I put them above there. I feel like the degree of difficulty was higher, and I feel like they've gone through more adversity.
Quick question before I move on to Steezy. Honest question. Did you have, and I mean you, JD, did you have both Shaq and Kobe in your top 10? You did? Both Shaq and Kobe in your top 10, right? Yeah.
Me? Yeah.
Okay, sure. I'll get back to that. There's a reason I asked you that. Steezy, where indeed should we rank? And I mean, I agree with JT. And that's why this Steph Curry conversation is so, fluid, because as much as I have him at 12, there's nothing to say that when Steph Curry's done, I don't have him in my top 10 because the story is still being written. Currently, as it stands, let's say the Warriors never won a single game ever again after this, and Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, they stopped playing basketball for whatever reason. The aliens came, blew up the earth, erased all of that. Where do you rank this current Warriors dynasty?
So I'm going to start off with my number 1 ranking. I think that's pretty obvious to everybody. JT talked about it, but it's the Bulls for me at number 1. I mean, you got 2 3-peats in the same era. You had 6 titles in the span of 8 years, led by the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan. Simply put, Chicago Bulls in the 1990s, greatest, best dynasty of all time. Number 2, I got the Showtime Lakers. I mean, I think JT also had them at number 2. But I mean, look, some of the competition that they defeated: Julius Erving and the Sixers twice, Larry Bird and the Celtics, 2 or 3 times, Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boys Pistons 1 time, and that was 5 titles in the span of 8 years. Earlier, we talked about it, Magic Johnson, or not everyone agrees, but I believe that Magic Johnson helped to revolutionize the game as far as the fast break. Like, the fast break was irrelevant. Nobody ran fast breaks. But then after that, then we started seeing more fast breaks, maybe, a little slower, but especially now it's more prevalent now than ever. But for me, I got the Showtime Lakers at number 2. At number 3, this is where I would insert the Warriors' current dynasty. I mean, we're talking about 4 titles in the last 8 years, and minus the 2 years in which the Warriors missed the playoffs, if you include every year that they've qualified for the postseason, they're 6 for 6 in advancing to the finals. Maybe they didn't win all of it, but that's 6 NBA Finals appearances in 8 years, and then 4 titles in 8 years. LeBron's number 2 on my all-time, on my all-time list. And so for the Warriors to have defeated 3 LeBron-led teams, I think in that span, I understand Kevin Durant. He lended a huge helping hand, but I think somebody brought it up earlier. Steph and the Warriors still have 2 titles, without KD. Pre and post KD, and so that still has to stand for something. But yeah, I mean, the Warriors, and we talk about it all the time. I mentioned this earlier, but the NBA now has so much more talent than there ever was in the 80s, in the 90s, and so I'm definitely putting a little bit more weight, and I'm giving the Warriors and Steph Curry more points in that regard. But number 1, I got the 90s Bulls. Number 2, I got the Showtime Lakers, and then at number 3, I have this iteration of the Golden State Warriors.
I leave Jerm for last because my people love Jerm. Rank this Warriors dynasty, Jerm.
They're probably, and are we doing just basketball or all sports? Because I did all sports.
Oh, wow. I love it. Give me all
So-
sports. I did not see this coming. I really meant NBA, but if you want all sports, I'm here for it.
So in the NBA, I think just quickly off the top of my head, I can't put them. Obviously, the Bulls are number one. They're the greatest team. It's just the greatest thing we've ever seen. I can't put them above the Showtime Lakers, and I know the time period. People are going to argue against the time periods of the 50s and 60s, but winning 11 championships in 12 years is like nuts, right? Like that's hard to do. Just like Wilt, people like want to rag on whoever he played. Averaging 50 points is hard. Scoring 100 points is hard, no matter what the time period is. So if I'm going by that criteria, I can't discredit Bill Russell and those Boston Celtics. So I would probably have them 3 in the NBA. Then we get to talk about the Kobe Shaq Lakers, this Warriors team, the Spurs. You know, I don't know who else you want to throw in there. I'm already going to omit the Heatles. Like, they don't count. I get they went like 4 straight, but they only won 2. I'm not going to count. I mean, Kobe's Paul Gasol Lakers went to 3 straight NBA finals. Like, I don't count that either. But so in NBA, I probably put them at the 4. I could probably be talked into 3, but somewhere in the top 5 for sure. Now, in all sports, I looked at it. If I had to put it in all sports, they're probably still in the top 10. I think I put the New England Patriots ahead of them. I think I put the 70s Montreal Canadiens ahead of them, the Detroit Red Wings in the early 90s ahead of them. I just put so, but I say all that to say
There's a
that
Yankees
this
team that you're missing.
and
here.
I'm sorry, yes, the 50s Yankees. Yeah, that was it too. That was the baseball thing I was going with. Sorry, 50s Yankees as well, obviously. So they're somewhere in that class picture in the, if you want to argue them in all sports, 6 to 10 range, which again, considering how many great sports teams we've seen over the years, there's nothing to snub your nose at. So, but in basketball, they're definitely a firm top 5, somewhere from 3 to 4, 3 or 4, however you want to argue it. But that's where I would rank them for sure.
I feel like Bill Russell disrespect, the slander is full in this chat because I don't know how you have Bill Russell's Celtics, all 3 of you, not number 1. Like, I don't care what era you're playing against Wilt.
Because Michael Jordan is the best player. He's better than Bill Russell. That's why.
Like, you're playing against Wilt. And by the way, there's a reason I asked Jimmy the question I asked him. And I don't feel like he was invalidating Tim Duncan's Spurs, but he played in the era where Shaq and Kobe played together. And he still managed to win titles while they were together. I think that counts for something. And that's why I'm going to say this. For me, as a basketball person, I love basketball. I have to start with Bill Russell Celtics. Like, there's a reason why the Boston Celtics have more titles than anyone else, and it's because of Bill Russell. I have to start with those Celtics. Then it go to Jordan's Bulls, the Showtime Lakers, and because of numbers alone, and Tim Duncan managed to win titles in the era with Shaq. Like, Shaq and Kobe, 2 top 10 players who played together. Tim Duncan had 5 titles along when LeBron James came in. That's nothing to scoff at.
No, the Spurs were a much better coach team, and they were a much better, deeper, better cohesive team. After Kobe and Shaq, I mean, like, if you want to sit there and try to make the argument for Rick Fox, then I mean, go ahead. I don't, but I get, yes, Kobe and Shaq were top 10 players, but let's not act like the Spurs didn't have an amazing deep team and an amazing coach who outcoached regularly Phil Jackson, who is one of the most overrated coaches of all time.
For sure.
I wanted to touch on this, but I knew that we'd be running for time. The Tim Duncan thing, though, and this is one of the things that JT and I, along with Don and Marcus, we had a huge debate, and it caused me to walk off of Marcus's set when they tried to bring the Tim Duncan slander. And for as great as an organization as the Spurs are, I like Greg Popovich more than most people do. I want people to also remember, as much as they had an MVP before Tim Duncan came in, and that is David Robinson, the Spurs have won nothing prior to Tim Duncan. The Spurs have won nothing subsequent to Tim Duncan. And on top of that, Greg Popovich's first season coaching just so happened to coincide with the very day that they drafted Tim Duncan. Now, let's leave that for food for thought. Huh? I will say this. Yeah, those 4 dynasties, and for me personally, I have nothing wrong with your list. but I will leave Steph Curry and these Warriors to battle it out with Shaq's Lakers. Sure, Steph has the pure numbers. He has 4 titles to Shaq's 3 in those Lakers days. But Shaq can argue they won 3 straight. Potato, potato. If you put them above Shaq's Lakers, I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it, guys.
Justin, just real quickly, I'm sorry, but do you value Spurs in their 5 rings in 16 years more than the Warriors 4 and 8?
Yeah.
Like, do you think the fact that it spanned almost double, what the Warriors are doing, like, are they getting extra points for that? Because a lot of it was regular season success. Yeah, they had some deep playoff runs, but 5 rings, and it took them 16 years. Warriors have gotten 4 and 8 in half that same span.
And the reason they do that is because, as you all mentioned, eras, and I hate to use eras, but it's not like the Spurs didn't have all-time greats in there stopping them, and that's the way we can get to. When you look at the run, right, look at who won titles in the span between Duncan's first and Duncan's last. You're talking about Jimmy's number 1 in LeBron James, who won titles in there. We're talking about Dirk Nowitzki, a guy who I have in my top 20. We're talking about Dwayne Wade, another arguably top 30 player. I'm certainly missing most. Like, the players who have won titles in this span, Shaq and Kobe, 2 further top 10 players. It is not a situation where Tim Duncan and company are losing titles because they let somebody sneak in and win a title. They're losing titles because they're all-time top 10 players in here, also winning titles. That's why, and again, as y'all keep mentioning, this book is still being written. So it's not a situation where I'm going to say 5 years down the road that the Warriors can't move up, or even next season, because you can still win titles. And I will say this, as much as I'm a big Suns fan, I have the Warriors as favorites to repeat next season. It's a reality situation. If they do that, then yes, I'm going to put them above Tim Duncan Spurs. But the fact that y'all each have them above the Spurs, I have no problem with that. As we are talking about the Warriors, just won their 4th in 8 years, 4th in 6 tries. Guys, I just said they're my favorites to win the 2023 title. But of them and the Boston Celtics, and I will give you, because there's nothing controversial coming out, Jerm, so you can start this thing.
Yep.
Who is more likely to make it back to the final stage?
Of course it's the Warriors, because there's one big reason. James Wiseman is coming back. He is, the only problem that the Warriors had this season, which obviously they overcame by winning the championship, is that they didn't have any depth with Kevon Looney out there. And now you're going to get somebody better than Kevon Looney. So simple math, right? I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking this, but if you have a player that's better than the player you already won with, chances are you're probably going to win again. And oh, by the way, you have the 2 greatest shooters, or at least top 5 greatest shooters, and at least one of them's one of them's not 2 through 5, right? One's the greatest. You have 2 of the 5 greatest shooters to ever live, plus the backup big, the young player of the future. And Moses Moody is going to take a step up. Jonathan Kuminga showed his flashes. He'll step up. Andrew Wiggins, Maple Jordan, all of a sudden stepping into his own. Draymond Green, this team is going to be even better. They're set up on paper to be better than they were this year. That's why they'll be back. Like I said, crazy injuries happen, just like James Wiseman. Because if James Wiseman never got hurt, this would never be a thing. Like, the Warriors would be easily favored all season, and they would have cruised probably easier. Maybe the Celtics wouldn't have won a game. I don't know. But if we're talking about these 2 teams, definitely the Warriors are set up simply because of the addition of James Wiseman.
JT, same question. Boston, Golden State. Who is more likely to get back here?
Well, I think Jerm, if you want to go to Vegas and go half on Wiseman for MVP and for comeback player of the year, we can do that, because you kind of convinced me. You want to do that?
Hey, let's go, man. Let's go, man. He ain't got nothing to do but work on his game, and he was already elevating. He was already playing good. Like, he showed you exactly who he was at Memphis and why the Warriors drafted him. That tank season they had, when the first year that Klay Thompson went out, that was the best thing to ever happen to this team. It probably bought them 4 or 5 more years in contention easily.
Yeah, I agree. I think Wiseman's his first healthy year was just, obviously he was too young because he hadn't played basketball that much in college. But I do think he's a key piece. And I think their injuries over the past 2 years have gotten a lot of guys experience that is invaluable. So yes, I do think the Warriors will go back before the Celtics, but to me, it's not as much about their team as much as it's about they play in the West. And I feel like we talked about this for the last like 3-4 months. The West is weak. Their biggest competition is the Suns. All right, I'm out on them. Like, they're never going to get it done. And Memphis is the next closest thing. Good luck with Ja Morant taking over the Warriors dynasty. Like, it's not going to happen. By just process of elimination, they're going to make it back. The Celtics are still in the East. Like, 76ers, Miami, the Bucks, like, they're still going to be there. Atlanta's going to get better. Washington, the Wizards are a wild card. Like, they can bring anybody in a free agency and automatically catapult. Brooklyn's a wild card. Like, there's no way that the Boston Celtics do what they do this year again next year. Like, they were so lucky. Like, that was a Kawhi Leonard type streak they had this year, and they didn't close the deal. Like, those don't happen again. Like, so what the Warriors have done this season is sustainable. I've seen them do it before. That with a weak Western Conference, like, it's got to be them. Like, anybody else that says that Boston's going to make it back, like, I want you drug tested. Like, it's insane. Like, it's not happening.
Do we have to drug test you, Steezy, or are you siding with Jerm and JT?
And we're taking you right to the lab right now, Steezy.
You won't need to. But if just in case you guys do, I'm not sure I'm going to be passing any tests anytime soon. And that's all jokes. I know this is a family-friendly show tonight. Apparently.
My bad.
Oh, that family stuff is out the door.
Yeah. I know. Hey, I saw Jerm kind of open that door, so I was like, you know what? Like,
sorry, I always do it too. My bad.
No, you cool, brother. I'm playing. I'm over here just joking around. So I had the same answer as both Jerm and JT, but I have different reasons. And JT, I'd have to disagree. I think next year the West is actually going to be tougher. People forget Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are still in the Clippers. People, I think, forget that if LeBron and AD are healthy, they should still be threats. I think Darvin Ham is going to try to make things work. They are going to, land a couple of pieces, hopefully in free agency. Memphis Grizzlies, they're on the come up. I don't even have to talk about the Suns. I've never been believers in the Suns. Justin, I'm sorry. I always thought they were regular season Warriors, but I think with the Clippers kind of hopping back into the picture, the Lakers should be back in the picture. The Grizzlies are getting better. The Dallas Mavericks, who recently landed Christian Wood, that was a great trade.
That's a big
move. What I mean? Right. So the Dallas Mavericks are going to be a threat as well. And so, look, I say all that to say that the Warriors
Denver Nuggets are going to get Jamal Murray back, too.
There you go. See, I forgot to even mention the Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray, MPJ. It's not even withstanding, any of the additions that they could potentially make. Who knows? Maybe the Blazers get Damian Lillard a legitimate number 2. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot going on out there in the West. I'm just saying. In the East, it's still tough, though. I mean, Kevin Durant and the Nets. You got my Miami Heat. You got JT. That's our team, actually. I forgot you were Heat.
All right.
So, and you got the Sixers. I hope James Harden plays better, but they're going to be threats. But I think the West does pose. The West does pose. What's it called? The road of greater resistance. But look, these guys have done this before. And going off what Jerm was saying, I agree that they have all these young pieces. But I actually think that they could flip these young pieces, these young assets. You could flip a James Wiseman. PJ Tucker recently declined his player option. What if he signs with the Warriors? The Warriors are always landing guys in free agency. Like Jerm talked about, Moses Moody's only going to get better. Andrew Wiggins coming off his first All-Star appearance. He's feeling more confident than ever. Klay Thompson should be healthier going into next year. Steph Curry's confidence is at an all-time high. I think the only person who is probably going to get worse on the Warriors is probably Draymond Green. But other than that, everyone else alongside of him is only elevating. Jordan Poole, if the Warriors don't want to pony up $80 to $100 million, they could trade him, flip him for another proven asset. We're going to see a whole bunch of veterans wanting to ring chase. To me right now, this is the easy answer. It got to be the Golden State Warriors.
Can I say something to Steezy real quick? I like where you went with saying that the West is going to be better next year. The only reason I slightly disagree with you on that, I would be 100% in with that argument if you were saying like, oh, every team was like Memphis. Like, the reason that they weren't good this year is because they're getting experience and they're coming for the Warriors. Like, you're talking about guys that are always injured. So are you confident that Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard, and Luka Doncic, if he comes in shape or not, you counting on all those guys to just miraculously change like what we've seen from them over the past 3 or 4 years? Like, AD's going to be hurt. Damian Lillard's only getting older. He's going to be hurt. The Pelicans, everybody on their team is hurt. Is Zion going to lose weight all of a sudden? Like, I just don't see a team in the West where it's like, okay, other than the Grizzlies, where it's like the only thing that's missing from them taking that next step is just more experience. Like, you're literally counting on old guys to stay healthy. And like, I just don't see that happen. Like, Paul George is hurt every year. Kawhi is hurt every year. And if he's not hurt, he's going to sit out 30 games. Like, I just think the Warriors are in a perfect position because I just don't see the next 2 or 3 years where the West is just going to be like a resurgence to where it was in the past, where it's just like this strong conference where it's like, there's 2 or 3 teams that could like give the Warriors problems. And then if those guys are healthy, I just think it's an odd situation where most of the teams that are competitive in the West are bad matchups for the Warriors. Like, I think the Warriors could run the top 5 teams in the West out of the building, even if they were at 100% health.
So
Look, JT, sorry,
Right.
just I'm just gonna respond real quick. JT, I think that's a valid point. But look, every season, I think it's fair to kind of give these teams a clean slate. Because I agree with you. I mean, these guys are getting injured each and every single year, but until they actually do get injured, I'm not going to just say, oh, these guys get injured every year. Let's just wait for that injury to occur. I think the West is more top heavy. I think the East is more talented top to bottom as far as depth, but the West is going to be more top heavy going into next year. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from. But yeah, I think that's really where I'm coming from. I give these teams a clean slate. And when it does happen, then it's like, okay, I knew that was going to happen. But until then, I think it's only fair to give them a clean slate. Blank whiteboard.
this is why
For
I
sure,
put
for
this
sure.
at the bottom of the slate, because this is going to be a boring segment. We all agree. Agree. I will say this with Steezy. I think the West will get better because, and I don't like the Clippers. Like, the best indicator for future performance is past performance. And like Jimmy said, Kawhi Leonard is gone past the days of ever being healthy. Probably so too Paul George. So I don't count the Clippers, and they have no history of success. But I will say Denver will get back Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. at some point. Dallas just traded for Christian Wood. Memphis will get better just because of natural player development. And I have a sneaky feeling that a certain LA team is looking and calling Kyrie Irving and saying, hey, big head, what's up? But get into that very shortly, too. All the same, though, yeah. When you look at Boston's run, their last 2 series right before the finals, they were extended to 7 games by 2 teams dealing with significant injuries. The defending champs at that time, the Milwaukee Bucks, were missing their second best player, a guy Jerm doesn't like, but a 3-time All-Star, all the same in Chris Middleton. And they still were down 3-2 to these Milwaukee Bucks. Then again, with Jimmy and Steezy's Miami Heat, they were extended to 7 games, although 6th Man of the Year winner Tyler Hero was missing for half of that series. That is not a good look for a Boston team who does not have much avenue to improve, while the Miami Heat will be getting back, hopefully, a fully healthy team and a player that resembles Kyle Lowry and not what we saw on the court. And on top of that, a Milwaukee Bucks team who should get back Chris Middleton at 100%. Yeah, I am not sure Boston makes that run again. Like Jimmy said, that you have to capitalize on those runs when they come up. Boston just did not. So to close out and avoid another boring segment, guys, this is actually my favorite segment here because I mentioned Kyrie Irving and Jerm's favorite player. So we have to start with Jerm again. James Harden. We have 2 all-star type guards who are have some serious question marks because neither guard have opted into their contract and they can test free agency and actually leave their teams. So Jerm, as a guy with a horse in the race, do you anticipate Kyrie Irving and James Harden opting into their contracts and staying with their current teams? Will one leave or will both leave?
I'm selfish. So if I'm both of them, I'm opting in because you've already gotten max dollars right there. But only one of them is more likely to stay because he's already said he's going to stay, and that's James Harden. Whether he opts into his deal and then takes a shorter extension, or they just rework a 3-year extension, he'll be there for another 3 years at least. So he'll get his $47 million this year, and then maybe they work something out for the year after, the next 2 years after on a really short deal. Or he could just not opt in. He becomes a free agent, re-signs with the team, and signs like a 3-year, $120 million so he can help the team. He said he was willing to do whatever. He has until the 29th. He has 9 more days to opt into his contract. I'm assuming they wouldn't make this trade unless they've already had these discussions. And if I was a betting man, I would have bet that he is not going to opt in. He's going to take a shorter deal, and they will have money to spend in free agency, which I expect them to surround Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid and James Harden and Tyrese Maxey with some shooting, which is the one thing that the Sixers needed in the first place, and not James Harden. But hey, whatever. He averaged 21 and 10. He shot nearly 40% from 3 during the season. He averaged like 18. I mean, he played like an all-star. The problem was when Joel Embiid got hurt, thanks Scott Foster and Pascal Siakam, but when he got hurt, we needed James Harden to be more aggressive. But his style of play, he played like a true point guard, which he didn't have to do, which he couldn't do really in Houston, and he didn't have to do in Brooklyn because that was Kyrie's job. So his facilitating, like, I think people are just, they were stuck on this version of him that existed 5 or 6 years ago. And I guess people don't understand what evolution is or changing is or role, different team dynamics mean. Guys play NBA 2K and all of a sudden they're Adrian Wojnarowski. All of a sudden they think they know everything. You guys are bums. Everybody in this comment section calling me Charles Barkley. Your mom's Charles Barkley. And so Kyrie Irving's a little different. The problem with Kyrie Irving is he should opt in because no team is ever going to offer him the money that he's making now. So the problem with that is he's going to put himself in a deeper hole with Brooklyn because they clearly don't want him there. Because you don't know if he's going to take 3 weeks off because of the blood moon rising in the eastern lakes of Minnetonka. We don't know what's going on with him. He'll just take random weeks off, mental health days or whatever. And so he's such a wild card that he's slowly creeping into his talent is not going to outweigh his headache, right? We've seen that in sports before. Terrell Owens, right? For a while, his talent basically overridden whatever headache he was going to cause until he got too old. If Kyrie Irving keeps playing around, that's going to be his fate. Eventually, his skill isn't going to be enough. He's not going to get the money that he thinks he deserves. Like, who knows? Because who knows what's going to happen? Who knows if there's another pandemic and he wants to be the voice of the voiceless and not want to play in the bubble and start trying to make a coup and tell his team that they don't need a head coach. Like, nobody wants to deal with that, especially not for $40 million a year. So we'll see.
Or if you decide to burn some stage to get rid of.
Burn some sage around the arena while everybody's trying to do shoot arounds, and he's sitting there and he's bringing his witch doctors in the locker room. Like, enough, Kyrie Irving, go sit down somewhere.
I don't think you're going to be able to top Jerm here, Steezy, but you can try. Will these two guards opt in? Will one leave or will both leave?
Man, honestly, I think I'm going to start with Jerm's guy, James Harden. Let's not forget, back in Houston, a 2-year, $100 million contract. It would have made him the highest paid player in NBA history with an average annual salary of $50 million a year. And so, right, exactly. And so, Jerm, I'm going to touch off what you were saying. He has 9 days to opt into that $47.4 million player option. And if I'm James Harden, not only am I collecting that payday, but for me to collect that payday, I'm going to need Philly to give me at least a 2 to 3 year extension on top of that, because I'm going to need that $50 million that's coming to my bank account, right? And I understand, he's probably going to want to help the team, gain more financial flexibility, but he also needs to get paid because he turned down such a huge payday in Houston. One way or another, he has to recoup that money. And so I think we have seen the reports that Daryl Morey and the 76ers are only willing to negotiate a short-term deal. I think James Harden will only come to an agreement in signing a short-term deal if he's allowed to opt into this near $50 million payday, because I think the final 2 years of whatever contract extension he signs is not going to be anywhere near 50, 40 million. I'd be surprised if it's over 30 million. And so I think a 2-year extension in the neighborhood of maybe 50 million. So it'd be an average annual salary of 25 mil. I think that's doable. I think that's more realistic. And so I think James Harden sticks around. I think he opts in, and I think he signs a 2-year contract extension to make it 3 years on that deal. I think with the Kyrie Irving, Jerm kind of said it all. He's played 42% of games for the Brooklyn Nets in the last 3 years. That's 103 out of 246 games. And I know he's not the most financially driven guy, as evident by the fact that in Boston, he turned down a lot more money to sign with Brooklyn to bring KD along with him. And so financial security isn't exactly his sole driving force. But look, Kyrie has lost out on a lot of money. Not only is it, due to his own, unavailability on the court, but I don't know if you guys heard, Nike isn't going to renew their contract with Kyrie Irving. And so there's that. There's another financial, avenue in which he's going to be losing money. I'm pretty sure there's other sponsorships, endorsements out there that have cut ties with the Kyrie Irving because of, some of the things he's done off the court. And so he's going to be looking to recoup a lot of that lost money, not only that lost money from Boston, but in the last couple of years. And so if KD is okay with it, look, I think Kyrie's out of town. I mean, you guys saw that cryptic tweet that he sent out. Kyrie does not like the media. So why is he going to try to give the media something to play with? You know what I mean? He's not just fooling us and just putting false stuff out there. And so I think Kyrie, he might be as good as gone. And I know this was a couple of weeks ago, but there was a report that KD hadn't spoken to the Nets organization in weeks. I think that's prearranged. I think that's planned. And so when Brooklyn allows Kyrie to go, then it's like, we had this kind of, back and forth with KD. We kind of didn't get along for a little bit, but he finally came to, to terms with the decision that we ultimately ended up making. And I think, Kyrie's as good as gone. I think he's going to opt out and he's going to look to collect the biggest payday that he could possibly make. And that's not going to be with Brooklyn.
Well, so basically kind of what Jerm said. Do you agree, JT?
To a certain extent, but for different, I think I have different things involved. Steezy, I like what you said about KD not talking to the team, but I'm not talking to my job on my day off either, so I'm not gonna hold that against him. And now let's start with
by the way,
James Harden. This is easy.
Actually has been fielding calls, JT, while you're on the show and silencing your phone, and really does want you to answer. So, yeah.
The James Harden one is easy. And Jerm, you're the 76ers fan, so I'm going to ask you this question. Are the strip clubs in Philadelphia really good?
Oh, yeah, buddy. Delilah's, let me tell you, they're all – hey, I can take you down to Tacony. We can go to Daydreams. I get you to Snail Trail for $150, and it is exactly what it sounds like.
And that's why I asked him this question, because if we were having the same question whether or not James Harden was going to opt into the Miami Heat, I'd be like, that's a stupid question. Strip club capital of the world are one of them, because I know he go to Tootsie's, he go to all Cheetahs, all of them. He go everywhere. Mm-hmm. But all seriousness, James Harden got to opt in. 47 million reasons why. And the reason he has nothing to do with, I'm worried about this and that and Daryl Morey. It has nothing to do with it. The thing with James Harden that is forcing him to opt in is there's just too much bad tape on him. Like, you could go through all the numbers that he had when he came to Philly, but your eyes tell you that he played like Ben Simmons. Like, it was a 21-point Ben Simmons.
It wasn't that bad.
It was a Ben Simmons 10 assists. Like, it was just the most inefficient, almost to a triple-double type of numbers you can put up. He looked bad. He couldn't shoot. He looked old. They played the Nets immediately and exposed all the rumors that Kyrie had told him that he was old, slow, and couldn't do it anymore. Like, all that's on tape. And like, James Harden, for the past, really since he's left Houston, has been just bad tape after bad tape. Like, he's fat, he's out of shape, he's slow, his hamstrings are blown up, and it's like he's getting older. Like, what team is going to offer him a max contract? Like,
do you think James Harden's hamstring injury bothered him all year? Do you think that thing was real? Like,
I do. Well, here's the thing.
So it's
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he was hurt. If he's not hurt, then it's even worse. He needs to get like the veteran minimum. That means he
scored 34 against he scored 31 in Game 4 against your Miami Heat. I mean, it he can still play.
So did Jayson Tatum. Are we going to make him a top 5 player all time? Like, people can go.
You did all season. He just didn't show up in the playoffs. It's all good. Like, you can be disappointing. His numbers say that he played at an all-star level. He was still one of the best players on the court. He just, again, people wanted him to be. There was a point in time where we unrealistically wanted him to be the guy he was 5 years ago. But that doesn't mean the person he is now isn't good. He was still one of the best players in the playoffs. No, I mean, you would still take him over a lot of the players that were in the finals. Like, I would take him over Marcus Smart. I'd take him over.
Okay, but it's Marcus Smart though. Like, Marcus Smart has never played at the level that James Harden has never played at. But we're not.
I don't know about that, Jerm. I don't know about that, Jerm.
When you're comparing, I'm gonna use the same thing you use for LeBron. When you're talking about GOAT conversations, like, we're not putting Marcus Smart in the James Harden conversation. We're talking about is he a top 10 to 12 max player that you're going to say, you know what, for better or worse, we're going to sink our budget into him for the next 3 or 4 years? And I'm telling you right now, the best thing that you guys could do is find a trade partner and get him out of there, because medicine tells you he's not going to improve. Like, I do think the injuries are real. I do think he's slow. I think hamstring injuries aren't going away, because I don't think he's as dedicated to fitness at this age in his career that he should be. There's a reason why Steph Curry is continuing his level of play. LeBron is continuing his level of play, and they get older, and James Harden is not. He's not taking it seriously. So, yeah, I think he'll opt into the $47 million, because he's not going to get that in the open market, and everybody has seen the tape, and they know what the playbook is on him. Now, Kyrie, I don't think he's going to opt in, because I think his reputation has taken too much of a hit in Brooklyn. Like, you just look at the way people look at him, and the lucky thing for him is I don't think people look at him in a bad way because of his play. Like, I don't think people think his play has dropped off. I don't think people think he's injury prone. I think everything that is negative about Kyrie out there that people feel is something that a team would say, you know what, I could pull him in and I could fix that. I can get him around in the situation and I can make him happy. Like, they're not doubting his skill set. But you look at in Brooklyn, like, he's missed games because of, like you guys said, like, he can go off the reservation, like mental instability. Like, you just never know what he's thinking. Like, all you got to do is really just get him away from hanging out with Kalani, and it might fix something. You guys might get him for a full season. But him really wrecking KD being a top 10 player is like the biggest knock against him. And like, if I'm LeBron, I'm like, you know what? I don't give a damn about that. He can still play. I can get him out here and I can fix him. Like, the T.O. thing was a great analogy. It's like everybody kept taking T.O. on with all these off-field or in the locker room issues, because the next coach was like, he's still talented. I can change him and make him different. And I think that's how they view Kyrie. So if I were him, I would opt out, because I think somebody would still pay me a max contract, even through all the turmoil he's had since he got to Brooklyn. Like, he's still shown that he could get a max contract, and that's how people view him. Like, James Harden is done. Like, he better take the money and just run to the strip club, because this is the last big check he's going to get.
So, again, this seems to be the boring part of the show, and that's why I put these two things at the bottom of the show and on the top, because we're all going to agree. I'm surprised. I'm going to start with James Harden. I'm surprised none of you all mentioned this. There's one huge reason why James Harden is going to stay. And obviously, part of it is $47.4 million owed to him this next season. But, guys, you do know, on top of Philly giving up so much to get James Harden, that he has a friend in the front office called Daryl Morey, or they are this. And the rumors are, I'm sure that Jerm has heard this as a Philadelphia fan. The move was always to bring James Harden in, ask him to take an extension for less than the max, or slightly less than the max. They're going to look to trade Tobias Harris to open up a third max slot to bring in another player. I do believe James will opt in eventually and then take that less than max shortened extension, as you all three mentioned. Like, the tape is up there, as Jimmy said. Like, he has never taken to fitness as he should. Although I heard his late days in Houston, that was a fat suit that he was wearing, but who knows? Except for James Harden and his Taylor.
He still got it on? Because I'm still fooled.
No, he's not fat enough. That was a fat suit. He's not fat, man. That was a fat suit.
Yeah, I've heard reliable sources say that it was a fat suit he was wearing. But on top of that, he's never taken, fitness seriously. But you've already seen the rumblings. They are trying to move Tobias Harris to create a third max slot. So that tells me that James is going to opt in and then eventually work on a shortened contract, especially when you have your guy in the front office. And obviously, as Jerm alluded to, you've had all these talks before getting traded for. Like, these teams are not stupid, although some teams try to fool us into thinking they really are stupid. But they would have had these talks, especially as Daryl Morey and James Harden are so close. But to the real conundrum, Kyrie Irving. Unlike James Harden, he has no friends in the front office. And we've heard how Sean Marks has spoken about this situation where he said everybody has got to be on the same page, everybody's got to be here. And we know full well who the everybody he was talking about. He wasn't referring to anyone else not named Kyrie Irving. He really meant K11. Guys, I'm not sure if you all watch I Am Athlete, but sometimes I get the opportunity to. And he had an appearance there. And the way he's talking, the way he is, I think he's good as gone. And if the other LA team, and by that other LA team, I meant the Lakers, because we were talking with the Clippers earlier, if they can find some takers for some contracts, me and Russell Westbrook being number one, I have an odd feeling that he ends up there, partly because I want him there. But secondly, in that YouTube clip, they asked him, like, about the LeBron James situation. And he said, what media has reported is not exactly entirely true. He and Braun are cool. And he said he feels like if he was smarter when he was younger, he'd probably be in LA now. That sounds like a guy, and he laughed when he said it, that sounds like a guy who's angling his way. And if you haven't seen it, since the rumors have come up about him not seeing eye to eye with Brooklyn on a new contract, Lakers and the Clippers have been front runners in trying to get Kyrie Irving. That's like, he's not going to have any shortage of suitors, guys. I mean, and I'm with you, he should, but he's not going to have any shortage of suitors
because he can still play.
That's the point.
He can still play. Like his negative press has nothing to do with his play. It's all about him as a person. And like in sports, people don't care about that. Like if all they care is, can we get you to the arena all night? After you leave, you can go to your flat earth convention. We don't give a damn. Like that's how people view him. Like for LeBron James, like you said, to be like, all right, like I'm targeting him behind the scenes. That lets you know how the league feels about him as a player.
That's it. Like,
so get LeBron more help. More help for LeBron is what you're saying.
Oh,
even more all-star talent.
Did you move him down to 9 now? Because
if Kyrie goes to the
him
Lakers, let me tell you, if Kyrie goes to the Lakers, Bill Russell, you're back into the top 10. You're back in.
I thought it's
you are so petty. And you know what? I feel bad because funny thing, we're talking about the Lakers and the 76ers. 76ers, I promise you, if James Harden opts in or they give him any sort of extension, just go ahead and trade Joel Embiid because like his prime is over. Like they're wasting it.
The reason
who is the other third person that the 76ers could bring in that is going to mask a James Harden decline? That you're like, all right, cool.
I'm going to tell you why they shouldn't. Nobody. The Sixers don't need to overhaul. They just need to, again, they need to tweak. They only need 2 or 3 more shooters. They need an upgrade from Georges Niang and Furkan Korkmaz. That's all they need to do. There's not much. You let them go and you can bring in Andre Drummond's a free agent. He's coming back to Philly. Book it. He's coming back.
You want Tyler Hero? We'll trade you him.
I don't want Tyler's sidekick. I don't want him. Listen, we're about to get PJ Tucker from you guys too, by the way. So like things like that will help the Sixers. Never mind
Draymond
the fact.
Jr., good luck.
Never mind the fact that this wouldn't be a discussion about the Sixers would be in the finals if Joel Embiid didn't get hurt, because he would have ran through your Miami Heat. He would have ran through the Boston Celtics. He would have ran through anybody in the East.
Because James Simmons would have showed up. James Simmons is going to show up next year.
We didn't need James Simmons.
But Jerm, he still had 4 games. He still had 4 games against our Heat. He didn't get the job done.
He had a broken face and a broken thumb. I mean, these guys. He had to get.
I thought he was the people's MVP. Michael Jordan would have swept him with a broken nose.
Listen, and he still almost got y'all. He still almost got y'all out of there with half of a face. Don't worry, I'm not worried about the Sixers.
Embiid will be lucky to have the season he did this year next year because you just know he's not going to play all the games.
He will have a better season than he did last year. Next year, MVP, book it. Matter of fact,
Jokic has a better chance of winning another MVP
in our basketball league. In our basketball league, my first pick is Joel Embiid. Book it.
Hey, time out. Hold on. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's on air. It's record. Yep. If you have the number 1 pick, you are taking Joel Embiid this year in this league, right?
If I have the number 1 pick in any of our football league, it's Josh Allen, and if it's NBA, it's Joel Embiid. Book it. I'll take him.
All right, you heard it here first. I'm going to give you the number 1 pick. I'm going to break the rules just so you can take Embiid first.
Go ahead. I will.
And you'll be trading him before the All-Star break.
Let's put some money on the line between JT and Jerm here.
Yep.
If Joel Embiid has a better season than this coming season, JT has for a month has to put on stuff about sports show on every show he appears.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with
it. Perfect. Send me all your stuff and I'll wear all your shirts. Send me your hats. I don't care.
Yep.
And the same
30.
goes
He
for
averaged
first.
30, 11, and 4 in 68 games this season.
So you think
he's
he's gonna
better-
do? So you think he's gonna do better than that next year?
Yes.
I can see
The
it.
other-
That's the
the other
first
way
big man to
around,
win the
Jerm.
scoring title since Shaq.
Yep.
Them kneecaps ain't gonna hold up.
Oh my lord.
The same thing, Jerm. You have to wear JT and Don gear. In fact, sorry guys, I'm gonna put it better. For the rest of the year, every show you go on, you're gonna have to wear each other's gear.
Yeah. Bet.
Yep.
Bet money. Bet money.
Bet.
I'll bet. Easy money.
Bet.
I love it here, guys. You heard it here in the comments. We've got a bet going.
He knows as soon as he drafts Embiid #1, he gonna be in my inbox trying to get a trade. That's my guy. I know he's gonna be in my inbox trying to make a trade. But
Man,
also to your Lakers, if they are smart, they should trade Anthony Davis too. Like I feel like James Harden and Anthony Davis they're both fool's gold, but people still think there's some value in there. Hence how he got to Philly from Brooklyn. Trade those guys and see what happens. Like that's like the only hope they have.
If the Lakers are
AD
smart,
done.
if the Lakers were
Is
smart,
there
they would
any
trade LeBron. If Lakers were smart, they would trade LeBron.
If
You got your
girls
computer.
are
What was
in chat-
LeBron's stats this year?
It's not about his stats. It's about LeBron has already made it known. He's out of there. He only has a year left on this contract. He's going to go play with Bronny, and it's probably going to be in Orlando or Oklahoma City or some other team.
Well, you
like
know
that.
what? I hope he does because I'll go watch him. He right down the street.
So the Lakers should get value for him now before he leaves for nothing. And it has nothing to do with how good or bad LeBron James is. It's just a business move. But if you lose
can agree with
Anthony and LeBron, it's like now what? Now you're back to the Smush Parker era, right? Like you gotta do something. So if I was the Lakers, I would and it's not even about trusting Anthony Davis. I would try to bring in a Damian Lillard. I would try to bring in another #1 over. I wouldn't give the keys to Anthony Davis. I would try to bring in somebody. If you could flip Kyrie for LeBron, I'd do that too.
If they trade
Jerm,
LeBron,
if it results in a ring, I think the Lakers are cool with letting them both walk as long as the ring comes within the next 2 years.
Yeah, well,
However unlikely that
unless
might
it's in a
sound, it is
bubble, the Lakers
possibility.
are already proven that they're not going to get a ring. And if Anthony Davis ain't playing, LeBron can't carry a team to the playoffs. So, I mean, not in LA anyway, because he hasn't done it not once.
I am way over time, so I have to let this show walk. Guys, it has been a blast. As I told you all in the comment section in chat, this was going to be the most anticipated show, and my guests did not let down. They did not fail me whatsoever. So please, on your way out, we are going to plug you. Steezy, plug yourself. Tell the guys how to find you, what you got coming up next.
Yes, sir. Hey, Justin, like I always say, man, it's always a pleasure being on here. And today was especially fun. I mean, and shout out to Neil, too. Of course, we can't forget about Neil behind the scenes. He over there doing his Dougie, doing his thing. Shout out to Marsha as well. She still needs to hop on the show with us. I feel like she's ducking a whole bunch of smoke, but neither here nor there. Justin, JT, Jerm, shout out to you guys, man. If you guys are listening, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't miss a show. So hit that notification bell. This just in at 8 p.m. Eastern time every single Monday. Be sure to subscribe, comment, show some love, do all that good stuff. JT and the Don. Be sure to follow them. Instagram, YouTube, all podcast platforms. Do that for me. And then last but not least, Stuff About Sports. They put on a good show. Production, everything is top tier, as well as everybody else on the show. So be sure to show them some love. And once you do that, you can find me at Steezy A Smith, SteezyASmith.
First, because he plugs everybody else, so it's almost like we don't have to do our jobs. But go ahead, Jerm, plug yourself.
Nah, man, Steezy did the thing. Come check us out tomorrow about 8:30 p.m. at Stuff About Sports. Appreciate you, Steezy.
As usual, I love this dude. JT, I love y'all stuff. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
for sure, man. The talented Steezy, man. Hey, no other words need to be said. But yeah, JT and the Don, anywhere you guys listen to podcasts, anywhere on social media, IG, TikTok, or everywhere. And also, please go listen to all the guys on this show, man. These are seriously some of the most talented dudes I know, man. All great content, all great shows. So these are the only guys I would do 2 hours of my life with every week. So definitely go subscribe, listen to everyone's show, man. These guys is truly, truly talented.
One more thing. I forgot to plug one more thing. My brother's show at The Divide, part of our Give Us a Shot network. We made our debut on Fox Sports Radio this past Sunday. I produced that show. So Sundays from 12 to 1 on Fox Sports The Gambler. It's a Philly Trenton radio station, but you can catch it on iHeartRadio, 102.5 FM and 104.1. If not, just search for Fox Sports The Gambler in Philly, and you'll catch them Sundays 12 to 1, The Divide.
And here y'all
Things
are
popping, man.
And here y'all are hating on Jerm in my comment section. And look what Jerm does. I tell you, there's a reason I bring this dude on. There's a reason I bring everyone here on. I don't need to plug my own self on my own show, and then Steezy has already done that. But every Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, right here on YouTube, you can find us, and you can find the other three gentlemen. If you do not find them, y'all are not searching hard enough. So for Steezy, for Jerm, for JT of JT and the Don, I am indeed Justin of #ThisJustin signing out. Thank you so very much for wasting 2 hours of your night. I hope you get it back somewhere during the week. Good night, everyone.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with me, ain't nobody here just the same. I still got the world. I still got the world. I still got the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.